Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm okay to hear for everyone in the back as well. I'd like to start within a few minutes. I just got the sign that we're okay to start. So, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. My name is Matthijs Oppelaar. I'll be doing the presentation for you guys about building your cybersecurity strategy based on ISO 27001. Before we start, I'd like to make a quick introduction about me, about why I'm here, about the company I work for, which is Fendix, and about our partner, SGS, who invited us here today. And then I'd like to take a deeper dive into ISO 27001. So firstly, like I mentioned, my name is Matthijs. I'm operational manager and partner at Fendix Consultants, and we're a consulting firm focusing mainly on information security and privacy. There's been a big attention, especially in Europe, but in the entire world, on cybersecurity as a whole, and I imagine that's why you're here as well. And a couple of years ago, we thought that would be an interesting point to start our company, and our founder, Wouter, who was at the back, thought it would be an interesting point to start. So that's why we started helping other companies achieve, firstly, their ISO 9001 certificate, then ISO 27001, and then we expanded into ISO 14001, which we did as well, and mainly started focusing on privacy lately as well. We started about 3 years ago in January 2022, and as of now we're with a team of 20 dedicated consultants, which we can help achieving our certification for companies that are struggling with that. That's our added value. We help. Like I mentioned as well, we were invited by SGS, a certification body, to tell you a bit about how ISO 27001 can help in building your cybersecurity strategy. The main topics we will cover today is mainly a bit about ISO 27001 to start, the industry and services we as Fendix operate in, the certification process, management systems in which ISO 27001 is managed, and the future outlook. And of course, we'll try to answer the question for you guys: how can we use ISO 27001 to manage our cybersecurity strategy? Firstly, the value of a cybersecurity strategy. I don't think I have to tell each one of you why that is important, and why that is important to manage the risks and the threats that are present in the cybersecurity landscape today. If only we had all the examples like the hack on the Dutch National Police a couple of months ago, or the hack of 200,000 CVs from the Dutch Unemployment Institute, the UWV. And why we need to use the ISO 27001 as a foundation to build that strategy on. Mainly it gives compliance, for which using a certificate is easy to prove. It gives trust to potential customers, to suppliers, to partners, to the entire industry operating in, which for people present in the Dutch healthcare industry, and then 7510 will do that as well, which is a Dutch derivative of the ISO 27001 for healthcare. And of course, it will give you a competitive advantage against competitors that are not having ISO 27001, which is good for business, I guess. Firstly, what is ISO 27001? ISO 27001 is a management system standard used to manage risks in information security. And it focuses on 3 core principles. Those core principles are usually abbreviated by the term CIA, which stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Each one of those principles is about information, protecting information. So protecting the confidentiality of information, protecting the integrity of information, and availability of information. In short, can I reach it when I want it? do I trust the information is right? And can I trust in the fact that only the people who should have access to that information have access to that information? The ISO 27001 is a standard you can get certified for, and which I always encourage to do. Why? It's easy to prove to your customer you're managing your information security and you've taken it seriously. However, in the certification process, there are a couple of roles. We've taken the liberty to split them into 4 roles, which are the accreditation firms. In the Netherlands, it's the RVA, de Raad van Accreditatie. In the UK, it's the UKAS, the UK Accreditation Service. Certification bodies, the organization that get accredited to hand out certifications. Consultancy firms, such as ourselves, such as Vendix, helping organizations reach their certification, and the organization itself. Why those 4 roles? Each one of those roles is important because when a certification body, which is the second role, is not accredited, no certification can be handed out. That's really important to know. I'll give you an example. For the ISO 42001, which is an AI standard, it's just come out earlier this year, no certification bodies have been accredited yet, but almost all of them are in the process of getting accredited. Why is that important? You can't have an accredited certification for that norm as of now in the Netherlands, which is important to know. That means that getting certified is a new thing. We don't have any best practices yet, like we do with information security, with privacy. Consultancy firms, such as ours, should keep that in mind as well, because we don't know how to do it yet. There aren't any best practices. For ISO 27001, there are lots of best practices. And so we help, the last role, the organization itself using those best practices in reaching the certification. In the example, on the right side of the screen, you'll see the stages of getting certified, summarized, of course. It's basically a 3-year cycle. And how could I forget NIS2 and DORA when talking about cybersecurity and information security? I'm sure most of you know that NIS2 implementation in the Netherlands has been postponed until next year, which I'm sure hasn't really been a surprise for everyone. We're usually late when it comes to implementing new EU guidelines. But I think that's maybe an advantage for us because we can learn from the countries around us, like Belgium, which already has the implementation ready and has the 4 cyber fundamental frameworks in place to even get certified for NIS2. We can use that experience, we can use those best practices to learn. So even though we're late and we'll probably get a bit looked down upon by Europe, which is fine, I guess, we'll be able to learn from our neighbors. And that counts for something as well, I guess. I'm sure most of you know what NIS2 is, but I'll give you a short summary. It's basically a EU guideline on cybersecurity. So it gives a framework for managing cybersecurity in your organization, and it gives pretty specific measures to take to protect your organization. And together with NIS2, another EU guideline came out, which was DORA, which is for financial institutes. And as we probably know, we'd like to treat our financial institutes differently. We like to treat them fairly strict. And that's why we did in Europe the DORA, which also gave a framework for managing cybersecurity. The relation with ISO 27001 is ISO 27001 gives a framework for managing information security, which is something different than cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is managing your cybersecurity on computers, on the World Wide Web, on the internet, on your connection to the internet. Information security is about all that, and information on paper, on knowledge, competencies, intellectual property maybe even. That's what information security is about. So ISO 27001 is even bigger. And that makes it a bit more difficult. But even so, when you're ISO 27001 or NEN 7510 certified, I'd like to argue that you're maybe even 90% done with your NIS2 implementation. But don't celebrate too early, because there's always specific things tailored to your organization that you should manage, like your ICT supply chain, which can be quite difficult for a hospital, I imagine. And the benefits for organization, yeah, I don't think I really have to explain that part, but I'll do it. It manages risks, it manages threats. You'll be better prepared against the big bad cyber world. Where does the ISO 27001 fit? Every industry. Even though you have 2 employees, if you have 1 employee, if you have 10,000 employees, the ISO 27001 gives a framework, and it's for every industry. And that's what we like as Appendix, as a consulting firm, like to do as well. We'd like to tailor solutions to meet every unique challenge in an implementation. So for example, finance, for healthcare, for consulting firms, for heavy industry. And of course, but I imagine everyone says that, we're flexible, we're pragmatic, we're innovative. And that's what we'd like to do in those 3 pillars. Compliance services with implementation, internal audits, gap analyses, so we'll all check where you are and where we can get you, or how we can get you where you want to be. Awareness as a service, as a tool. We have a dedicated partner for awareness solutions, which is called Gardi. But Duolingo of awareness, they call themselves, and I agree. And we recently started thinking about technical solutions. So, together with a partner, we designed a platform, an application for pen testing services, where 24/7 ethical hackers will be available to black box, gray box, white box, your entire environment. And EDR as well, which is together with a technical partner, because as some of you might know, it's quite difficult to set up from the beginning, and we're consultants, so we're not IT consultants. So we'd like to gather the knowledge and add the knowledge to our expertise that we don't have. In the last slide, I talked a bit about a unique challenge. I'd like to take you with me on that. One of our customers, which is Total Energy's Charging Solutions, had one of those unique challenges. They were reporting a lack of resources. They didn't really have the internal capacity to implement ISO 27001, which is a thing we see a lot. There's a lack of time, there's a lack of knowledge, there's no priority even, not really management support. We want it, but we really don't really want it. That's what it's about. So they came to us, and we asked them, what do you think the problem is? And they said all those things I just described. So we thought, how could we manage that? And the solution was fairly easy. Just give them the capacity, give them the knowledge. So a consultant, but not a consultant that tells you what to do and then walks away into the sunset. No, a consultant that will be there for your questions, and a consultant that will fit the role of an internal security officer. There will be an ambassador and a project leader for the project instead of an internal project leader. And I think that's where the added value is. In that part, an ambassador and being a project leader. And of course, the result is what we wanted, which was an ISO 27001 certification. And when using that specific approach, we managed to get more than just a certificate. We managed to get a system. We managed to get all the right processes in place, as you should, but we managed. Total Energy Charging Solutions is still our customer. Our colleague that did the implementation is still there as an internal security officer, being an ambassador, being a project leader for this specific subject. And that's what we like to do in our certification journey. Because as I mentioned, we're a consulting firm. We don't do certifications, but we can help you in achieving that certification. We can support you during an audit. So we'll usually start with a gap analysis, with an IST and a SOL situation. We'll write a report. We'll do a recommendations report just to help you. We'll explain it to you, and then we'll work with you or for you in implementing the management system, an ISMS, an ISO 27001 management system, an information security management system, I should say. Of course, an internal audit and a management review just to fix the PDCA cycle and to take a critical look at ourselves. Do the external certification audit, which our partner SGS can do and a whole lot of other certification bodies can do. Then we'll do post-certification support, whether you want it, which is kind of maintaining the ISMS, an ISO 27001. How do you use that ISMS and how do you build it effectively? And how do you use it to build an effective cybersecurity strategy, which is the question we're trying to answer? Well, first you need to ask yourself a question. What do I need in that system? So what does the standard say? Not really much. It says you need to have a bit of documentation, and you need to have a risk management process, and you'll need to select which one of the premeditated controls you're going to use. But what else do you need? Well, in our opinion, you need task management, you need document management, and you need linking capabilities. So how do we get from tasks to documents and back and in between? And as well, how can you do that in the systems currently in use at your organization? We've selected a couple of project management tools, which are quite easy to use and quite easy to use as an information security management system. They have each one of the capabilities I just described. They have a task management, they have document management, and they have linking capabilities, which is all you need. Because what you're trying to do is integrate information security processes into your operating processes. You're not trying to create two different things, because that's not how you build an effective strategy, and that's not even how you build an effective system. A couple of slides ago, I used the example of ISO 42001, which is, as I mentioned, a new AI standard. And the EU has come out with some EU managing, regulating regulations. But we should be honest in this, about this subject. AI is very, very new. We don't know what the tough challenges are. We don't know best practices. We don't know what we should do, and we don't know, which is maybe even more important, what we shouldn't do. So yes, we can implement an AI management system. We can, maybe each one of you can. But it's hard to do when there aren't really any best practices yet. It's about ethical behavior in AI. But I can't tell you what ethical behavior in AI is. I really can't. So that's the challenge. But we need it. We need a way to manage AI in organizations and the use of managing AI in organizations, especially with the ever-growing larger use in every single kind of organization. And I'm not really talking about ChatGPT, but I'm talking about Scriber as well. I'm talking about Canva adding it into their designing database. Every self-respecting app has an AI part. But do you know what happens to the data you put into that AI? I couldn't tell you. Again, I don't know. And that's a risk you as a person, but also as a representative maybe for an organization, you should be aware of. You should maybe do something about. Maybe. Maybe it's worth it to you. I don't know. And of course, why am I talking about ISO 42001? Well, it's an ISO management system standard. So it's based on a management system. It's based on an harmonized structure, which is the main part of all ISO management system standards. Well, those things I mentioned before. It's new. It's quite new. But we can do it, but we need an organization that is very, very familiar with AI. And that's where our strength comes in. As a project leader and as an ambassador. But we cannot be, maybe no one can, be an expert in AI. Because that's maybe even too hard to do. I wanted to go back a bit for ISO 27001 and why it ties into a cybersecurity strategy. The people familiar with ISO 27001 will know ISO 27001 is risk-based. It all should be about risks. And we should only do things when there's a risk, so there's a why. But there's more. There's more. It just enhances data security, so cybersecurity, information security as a whole. As I mentioned before, you can get certified, so it boosts client and partner trust. Supplier trust as well. It improves business resilience because there's a part about ISO 27001 that says something about business continuity. Crisis management, as some like to call it. About information security, not as crises as a whole, but about information security. So, how can you use ISO 27001 in your cybersecurity strategy? First, implement ISO 27001. Companies like ours would like to assist you in that. That way, you'll take a critical look at your organization, at your surroundings, and you'll become aware of what your threats are, about what your weaknesses are, but also what your strengths are and what your opportunities are. People paying attention, I've just named a SWOT analysis in the subject of information security. Using that context, you'll reach a conclusion. What are my risks? How can I manage them? What can I do about it? And how should I prioritize? And then plan them. Just plan your actions. Plan the prioritized actions first. Evaluate, of course. It's a PDCA cycle. Continuous improvement, as we'd like to call it. And be critical. Thank you for your time. please stop by the SGS stand. We will be there. Should you like any further information, you can just ask one of us. We'll be at the SGS stand. Book an introductory meeting through vendix.nl. And yeah, we'll look forward to meeting you. Thank you.